2, 1.
Got it.
All right. So, Jimmy, we're not going to get started yet. We're going to wait a few minutes for some more people to come on because people are flooding into the waiting room. And just wanted to also say hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hey,
Or welcome back, I guess I should say. We have a lot of regulars as well, which is
cool.
good because regular people help me be regular, so that's great. We have Jen, Guy has been on before, Michelle is always on, Suzanne, welcome, Suzanne. Why don't you type in the chat box, everybody, where you're from, so that way we know where you're joining us from where you're joining us. We get people, Jimmy, from the Netherlands, from Ireland, from South Africa, from Norway, all over the world. So
Fantastic.
I want to see who traveled the furthest. Billy's coming from the UK, so that's good. It's late where Billy is. Texas. We have Michelle is from Kentucky. That's like a different country. In Kentucky. We have New Mexico, awesome. Madison, Wisconsin, North Carolina. I will be in North Carolina in a couple of weeks.
You will?
I will.
What are you doing? I didn't know about this.
Well, sorry that I don't reveal all of my stuff to you. I don't tell you everything. No,
right.
So my fiance and I were driving down to Florida and we're taking our dog with us. So we're going to be staying, I think, in North Carolina.
Oh, God, I'm glad I don't live there. I don't want 3 people with a dog. God, that's too much.
I have stayed at people's houses before, and I like my own
Traveling
space.
with a pet. I love dogs, but
Yeah.
traveling with a pet, no.
Yeah. Randy and David are here. And Guy says, wonder if your methods can help anxiety and insomnia due to benzos and withdrawal. No, you're shit out of luck. No, I'm kidding. Yes, they can. They can. I actually just finished. So just to let all of you know how I deal with stress. I have a personal thing that's going on in my life right now with my mom and my brother that we're just all working to resolve. And it was very tension producing stressful last week. And Jimmy, I don't know about you, but this is how I deal with stress. I redirected it and I wrote a 20,000 word book over the weekend.
I'm telling you, isn't that amazing?
Another one. And Guy, to answer your question, a big part of it is how people go to traditional methods like therapy and mind-altering medications. And there are 4 words that when you embrace these 4 words can really help transform your life. And Jimmy, you overachiever, you don't have 4 words. You have 3 words.
Oh, I do.
You do.
3 powerful words.
3 powerful words. So, all right, we're 5 minutes in. Okay. We're 5 minutes in. So my friends, here's what we're going to do. Jimmy and I, we talk about stuff ad nauseum. And Guy says, what are the words? What a cliffhanger. How awful would we be if we
if we didn't say it, right?
If we didn't say it.
Well, you know what? I'd like you to let me say it though, for when
Yeah.
I'm actually connecting what you do and what I do as far as the why we're here.
Sure, absolutely. We'll reveal the words in a few minutes. And Jimmy, I think our words are different, but they coincide. So I'm going to spotlight both Jimmy and I. We just like everybody to see on the recording that there's actually a lot of people here. So it's not like our 12th birthday party when nobody showed up, so it actually
I've had that happen.
Me too.
That's what happens when you're the class nerd.
Yeah. I was the class magician. So it happens when when you're the class magician too.
Yes.
All right, here we go. So my friends, Jimmy and I, we've been friends for about 10 years.
For long enough for him to still be calling me Jimmy when everyone else is calling me James. So, yeah, that's about a decade.
And I met Jimmy I gave a presentation and he came up to me and he said, I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm crying. And then I started crying, as now I'm crying. So we both
Yes.
were crying in each other's presence. So Jimmy has an amazing practice and specializes a lot in weight reduction and various facets of weight loss. And Jimmy, he's not just a hypnotist, but he's also a motivational speaker, and he is the author of 4 books, including Hypnoketosis, which is the book that started the No More Sugar program. So Jimmy specializes in a program that is no more sugar, and Jimmy is actually in the next uh, week or two, Jimmy's going to be doing a challenge called the No More Sugar Challenge, which we'll talk about after. And it is my great honor and pleasure to welcome Jimmy V, or if you know him formally, James Vera.
James M. Vera, right?
James M. Vera. Yay!
Hey. Thanks, Dan. I'll tell you, after knowing you for 10 years, and it's so funny when Dan tells that story about how we both like just started crying. No, in fact, we started talking about and it went for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then it turned into that was about families of addiction. And that was the real crux of it, because I had been going through some really tough time with my partner's family, who had a lot of drug addiction at the time. And I keyed into Dan's pain, because he also was, if you remember, Dan, you were in the process of closing on a house.
Yes.
That you weren't sure if you were going to get at the time. And it was very, very stressful time for you.
Yeah.
And it was before you were the anxiety relief guy. You were just the guy who was having anxiety.
Yeah.
And and that's why you're so good at being able to help other people. No joke aside, because you can't help other people with anxiety unless you know what that feels like.
Exactly.
And I used to tell people, one day of anxiety for me feels like I worked a 40-hour work week. I mean, and the rumination and the brain and all those things, which we'll get into. And but what I think is exciting is Dan and I had a dinner. We seldom get a chance to just socialize one-on-one. And it was very entertaining, because when we were on our way to dinner, I said, I didn't book the tickets, Dan, for the Second City comedy show. I said, I didn't book the tickets because, Dan, I just don't like pressure. I just don't like anxiety. And he's like, oh my God, thank you so much for not putting that pressure on us. So during this dinner, though, which was incredible for me, is that I started to discuss to him about how many of my clients, who, whether they come to me for weight loss or just a sugar addiction or type 2 diabetes, when my clients come to me, they often have this cyclical thing that is anxiety, feed it with sugar, anxiety, feed it with sugar, and the sugar raises the dopamine and everything's great until the cupcake crashes. And so we started discussing about how he's helping people with the anxiety portion. I'm helping people with the giving up the sugar and being able to change their their eating habits, because during the pandemic, when I wrote Hypnoketosis, Dan, you probably remember this, I used to be 220 pounds.
I remember.
I'm down 40 pounds, and it's been that way for about 3 or 4 years. That does not mean that I've never had a bit of sugar ever again or anything else. Things happen, and that's, we're going to talk about self-hypnosis and putting yourself back on track, which I'm sure Dan has taught you many things as far as your anxiety goes. But I just, during this dinner, we just came up with the fact that I wanted to come on and share with everyone from Dan's community that has anxiety that there's a big correlation between eating and anxiety and medicating with food and sugar and other substances, of course, but those are the most common. And I think the most important thing is that all of you need to take the hammer off of yourself and just kind of hit yourself with a feather a little bit, because the more we beat ourselves up about all this stuff and, we're not doing it perfectly. I don't do it perfectly. I don't do my no anxiety perfectly. Before I came on tonight with Dan, I was about to ask him, what do you do for like the jitters before you go on talking to people? Because I don't care how many times I've done this, whether it's on Zoom or in person, there's this sort of sense of angst that comes over, at least me, before I go into any performance situation and or speaking situation. And the bottom line is this: the amygdala of our brain, and I'm sure Dan, if he hasn't touched on it, I think he taught it to me, but the amygdala of our brain, whether it's anxiety or excitement, it processes it the same way. It's a different perception that we put on it, but the feeling of anxiety and excitement are identical, except we identify with one as positive and one as negative. So before we came on tonight, I usually watch, Dan, I never shared my secret with you, but I usually watch a little Johnny Carson monologues, probably about 15 of them, before I go on any show. And that relaxes me because I end up laughing with the crazy zaniness of my childhood. And then I'm good. But before I came to see you tonight, Dan, I was like, you know what? I'm not anxious. I'm excited.
It's funny you say that, Jimmy, because so for those of you who are just logging on, Jimmy and I, we have a banter, and I said to Jimmy, let's make this not a shit show and let's actually talk for a few minutes beforehand. So Jimmy called me, he video chatted me on FaceTime, and he was chill, and he said, oh, my computer's shitting the bed right now. And he said, is this screen normal? And I'm like, no, it's really not. He's like, you know what? We're not going to get worried about this. He said, I have my iPad. I have my phone. If my computer doesn't work out, I'll just shoot it on one of those. We'll just do it on one of those. No big deal. And Jimmy, some people, that would send them through a freaking downward spiral of doom and gloom of, oh my God. And part of it is experience. Part of it is how we interpret it. And right before I hit the accept or admit all button, I just started laughing. And you had mentioned you watched Johnny Carson. I giggle like a little schoolgirl when before I log on, because I get so excited. Have you ever heard of, like, you feel like tickled pink?
Yeah,
My
you're
dad used to say that.
giddy. You're
I'm
giddy.
giddy. I'm
Yeah.
giddy. And I get a case of the giggles beforehand, and you saw that. Now,
I did.
I don't normally do this
That's
with
the
people.
only time I got really worried.
Yeah. Oh, Dan's displaying a happy emotion. Oh,
Yes,
no.
I don't know what's happening to him. He's going silly.
So these are things, though, that we sometimes forget. It's okay to feel something that's not anxiety or feel something that's not stress, because I really believe, just like people, and Jimmy, do you believe people become addicted to sugar?
Oh, absolutely. They've proven that with MRIs of the brain. It's an
Yeah.
addictive substance.
Just like anxiety, we become addicted to those emotions of anxiety, of stress, of overwhelm, of tension. And for the people who are asking questions, this is important for you to know, because we crave emotionally that which is familiar. And there's two types of addictions. There's chemical addictions and there are behavioral addictions. Behavioral addictions are addictions like gambling or video games or porn. And what happens with our emotions, we become addicted to certain emotions. Again, Dr. Joe Dispenza has done fMRIs on people that have had panic attacks, anxiety, and we become addicted to those emotions because what happens, we crave that which is familiar. And anxiety becomes familiar. So we wake up every morning, or we go throughout our day scanning things and scanning our bodies to find the anxiety or to make sure we're not anxious. And if we're not anxious, we get anxious about not being anxious. We're like, where is it? Where did it go? And this is why when people feel something that's not anxiety, or when people feel something that's anything but stress, they're like, oh my God, this is weird. And it feels a little weird. So tonight we're going to get a little weird because Jimmy and I, whenever we're together, we get a little weird.
Okay, we're not getting that weird.
Someone said too, this is important to just highlight here from Jimmy. Someone said that they get the opposite problem when they get anxious, they can't eat. And that happens
yes, that's common too. That's common too. But as you can see in the chat room, there's an awful lot of people that their sugar is their go-to, you know. And I've been through my own 28-day treatment programs a few times in the 90s when it was popular. I can honestly say that people that are getting off of alcohol, my grandfather was a recovering alcoholic, he used to eat half gallons of ice cream until he got kidney stones. But the bottom line is that sometimes other addictions, we replace them with sugar. I'm excited to be able to share some of these techniques, if you will, where people can kind of tone that craving down, if not eliminate it. There may be some people on this call. If they're not, they'll be on the No More Sugar Challenge that's coming up December 4th. I'm getting emails all the time about people that have worked with me that can't believe that they're making it through the holidays and it doesn't even faze them.
Yeah, there's a wide variety of people where, and you and I were actually talking about this before we started letting people in tonight. I encounter that a lot of clients who reach out to me, they think anxiety is much like smoking. And when Jimmy and I were seeing smoking, Jimmy, do you still see people for smoking cessation?
That's how I got into hypnosis as a respiratory therapist. So that was my gig. And I still get smokers. Yeah. I really do. And I love working with my sugar addiction people and my weight loss people. But I still love smokers used to terrify me as far as success. Did they terrify you?
At first, yeah, because it's one of the things, it's like it either stops or it doesn't.
Yeah. And once you kind of get in the groove, maybe 1 out of 10 don't fare out too well. Right. But you got about 90% chance when you know what you're doing.
And I still see the occasional smoker when I'm in my office, because I like to do it in person. But I think a lot of people that reach out to us for stress, for anxiety, they think it's going to be like smoking. Like, oh, I'm going to go in for 1 or 2 sessions and then I'm never going to feel anxious again. And nothing's ever going to bother me again. And that's, we would love that.
Wow.
Right? We'd love that. However, I find anxiety and stress, it's more like weight loss, where anything that you want to keep up has to be maintained. If you want to maintain being overweight or unhealthy, you have to maintain eating unhealthy foods. If you want to reduce your weight or you want to be healthier and have a healthier system, you start eating healthier foods, you start exercising, you change your relationship with the foods that were making you overweight. The same thing is true with anxiety. With anxiety, we've got to look at it as changing the relationship with the things that contribute to our limiting anxiety. And that's where it's about making some changes in your life and sometimes listening to that anxiety as well. And making some of those changes that can help you change your relationship with the things that are bothering you. So just like we change our relationship with food, we also have to change our relationship with anxiety.
Absolutely. And I like what you said. It's not about shutting a switch on and off for anxiety. I still have anxious moments. I recognize them faster, which you were talking about the addictiveness of anxiety, if you will. We get addicted to the adrenaline, to the cortisol rush. We don't realize it. But I mean, when I was in Chicago at that last conference, not that I'm going to get too into the babble, but this first 5 to 7 years of our life, when we're absorbing every single thing into our subconscious mind, when we're basically in hypnosis for the first 6 or 7 years. And I believe my understanding is nature created that so we could mimic and learn. And unfortunately, a lot of us, me especially, was, dragged up by wolves. But no, they did the best they knew. And I care for my mother very much, as you know, Dan, I'm her main caregiver. However, what was put in my little box in those first 5 to 7 years still triggers. And I still have to use the techniques, be the steward of my own mind, like I teach my clients. This just doesn't go away. But, I used to have a fear of flying, and I helped probably 300-400 people get over the fear of flying. And I was taking Ativan, glued to the seat, drugged and terrified. And then I finally worked with a hypnotist and got rid of it. As I was a hypnotist for 5 years suffering from this. And I still helped other people get over it until I was ready to get over it. But I can't tell you that I'm a 0 on the anxiety scale on an airplane. If a little turbulence comes, I'm ready for some depends.
Which I think there are certain things where there's certain times and places where anxiety is warranted. And that's one of the first things I ask people is when I see them for anxiety is the anxiety that you've been experiencing, is it appropriate? And it may have started off as appropriate. Now, you had mentioned the imprint period. I call it the imprint period of when we're younger, from 0 to age 8 or 9. And how does that affect how people consume sugar or consume unhealthy foods? How does that influence us?
Well, think about just this little simple thing. This might not have happened in your home or mine, but some homes. Sugar became a reward. Oh, you did so good on your report card. We're going to have cupcakes. Now, listen, I love all that warm stuff feeling about. I mean, I wouldn't take away any of those memories I have of my mom. My mom was always obese. She loved to bake. And we got fed a lot of sugar. But we weren't allowed to have sugar cereals. They had the toy in the bottom of them. You're not getting them. We don't buy sugar cereals, but we'll feed you sugar in every other area. But nonetheless, oftentimes sugar was a reward somehow, some way. Halloween, Christmas, Easter baskets filled with chocolate bunnies. And there are so many, and then all the great desserts that different tradition, based on your culture and what your grandma cooks and who's serving what kind of a pie. Think about all these times when sugar was attached to an emotion, attached to a memory of Christmas, just like the smell of pine for a pine tree. And that's just, our olfactory sense. But just think about all the wonderful times you had with sugar. And now it has turned into maybe something different for you, a different kind of a relationship with sugar.
That makes sense too, Jimmy, about how like you go to the doctor's office, or if you fall and scrape your knee,
Get a
it's
lollipop.
get a lollipop, right? Or, oh, if you stop crying, I'm going to give you a cookie.
Yep.
Or like when our parents used to tell us, manja, eat, it'll make you feel better. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
little did they know they were sabotaging our little impressionable minds, right?
Right. Food was love. Food was
Food was
love.
love. Exactly.
For most of us. And I
Yes.
don't mean to discount the people that were hungry because they lived a different kind of life. I feel bad for that, for anybody that was hungry.
Yeah.
But in my house, luckily, there was a plethora of food, and not always the most healthiest. But you're talking about that imprint time, and I'm wondering if everybody can really zone in on this thought that when we're first born, if you think about this, we're sitting there basking in this wonderful bath of 98.6 degree, beautiful protected temperature. And all of a sudden we come banging out, and it's wow, lights, camera, action, crying, sucking out all of our orifices so we can catch our first breath. And then the first thing after you're all cleaned up, what do? The baby's crying, feed the baby. The baby must be hungry, feed the baby. So the first imprints really come right from the beginning, that food is love, because you're being nurtured at that time and you're being fed shortly after arrival. So I think that for some of us, not that I do past life regressions, but all of that plays into our current behavior, because as Dr. Bruce Lipton says, 95% of our day is run off of subconscious programming.
Mm-hmm. And Jackie asked in the comments, how do we all of a sudden get anxiety about something that never bothered me before, driving, crowds, etc.?
Oh, that's happened to me, Jackie. Absolutely.
And you know what? Just like we're talking about imprint periods, usually it's from an imprint period. Now, imprint periods don't just happen when we're younger. They can also happen through repetition, through heightened emotion, through authority figure, through story, metaphor, symbolism. So you could have been going through a really stressful time at one time, and then all of a sudden you were driving down the road and you started just overthinking about a lot of the stress, and you started to feel panicked, not because you were driving, but because of the things that you were going through in your life. And then all of a sudden, your brain connects that stress that you felt with driving, and it says, oh my gosh, I must be anxious. I must now have a fear of driving, or I must now have an anxiety of driving down the highway. So those are mismatches. That's one way. And another is called an initial sensitizing event, which is a one-time thing, a one-time situation where a false message or a message sneaks past your critical mind, your conscious mind, and into your subconscious mind. And this initial sensitizing event, it could have happened 25 or 30 years ago, and you weren't even aware of it until recently, because there's something that caused it to manifest. So that's why these triggers happen. I explain a lot about triggers in my keynotes. Jimmy, you've seen it, where I play the music from Sarah McLachlan, right?
Yeah.
The soundtrack that used to be played for the ASPCA commercials, and people literally start to cry, even though they haven't heard that song or seen that commercial in 5 years.
Yeah, you ruined my conference.
You're welcome. And it's because it is stuck in the nervous system, and something triggers it, just like what happens with sugar, what happens with using food out of emotions. In fact, type in the chat box, my friends, type the word cupcake if you have ever eaten out of boredom, depression, loneliness, anxiety, companionship, time, day, reward, or other people.
Also, Laura mentioned that her issue is that her neck tightens up and that her blood pressure increases. And, our blood vessels constrict during stress because you're shooting through all that adrenaline and cortisol and everything else. They clamp down. Our whole body is a muscle. And that's why your neck and your blood pressure goes up, because you're actually constricting your blood vessels because of false images in your own mind. That's all they are, really. Most of the time, anxiety comes from future thinking. Wouldn't you agree, Dan?
I would definitely agree. And
that's why I like you.
No, Jimmy, you're wrong. What are you talking about? Jimmy, we got a lot of cupcakes. We got a lot of people responding cupcake. And I know it may sound like we're going back and forth between anxiety, sugar, anxiety, sugar, anxiety, sugar.
Well, there's a correlation here. I'm sure people are picking up on
that. And Laura says, future thinking hit me like a ton of bricks.
I'm sorry.
So, and by the way, this isn't the only time we're at the end, we're going to talk a lot about kind of some of the next steps that you can take and everything like that to resolve some of the sugar stuff, also to resolve some of the anxiety stuff as well.
And actually, I have a great exercise. Remember, Dan, we're going to do an exercise.
Yes, we are going to do a what Jimmy calls a quantum focusing exercise.
Yeah,
And
and
which,
actually, Dan, I think it's really important because we come from a lot of great stock when it comes to hypnotists and people that have come before us. I
Mhm.
mean, I know, you're 35 and you've been in the business 30 years, and I'm 60 and been in the business 15 years. So you've been doing it since you were 5. But nonetheless, there were even people that came before you.
Yeah.
And Michael Elner came before both of us. And I think it's this quantum focusing, which is a way to put ourselves into a trance very quickly. I think the history of it is important. And the history of it is that Michael Elner was one of the first people to offer himself to the AIDS community back when it was a huge crisis and people were dying quickly and they didn't know why. And nobody wanted to hug people with AIDS. Nobody wanted to go near them. Michael stepped up to the forefront and he decided to come up with a very quick way that people who were suffering either mentally or physically could, including their family members, that they could come up with a way to put themselves into a trance and really by using quantum focus, make an instant shift. And that's what we're going to do tonight.
Excellent. And I am just answering James, who asked, does cortisol spike increase sugar cravings? And
I don't know.
I put yes, it can. Yes. It can if it is an anchored response. And because sugar gives us a dopamine flow, right?
Yeah.
And so it gives us a temporary feeling of
I
satisfaction.
had a relationship with little Debbie.
Yeah.
I had to get a divorce from her. Oh, she's toxic.
These are things, though, that they can be stuck in your nervous system. And Shadow, what did you miss? You're gonna have to watch the replay. And Jimmy, the quantum focusing, so it doesn't just work with anxiety and stress. It can also be a way to center yourself for hold on, we're gonna mute you, my friend. There we go. And where the hell was I? My brain just, what was I just talking? Oh, quantum focusing. Sorry, my friends. Quantum focusing, it can also help with sugar cravings. It can also help with anxiety. This is one of the, it's like a self-hypnosis protocol that can give you what you need at the time. Before we get into that, Jimmy.
Yes.
I feel like we are
sugar bad for anxiety.
We are putting off Guy because Guy asked, what are the words?
Okay.
Right,
Let's
earlier,
go back to Guy.
earlier.
So I hope you're thinking the same words I am, because I'm basing it off of my 3 Powerful Words book that I'm trying to push, as well as everything else here.
Yes, but I have 4 words which are different than yours.
Well, I'm going to just say mine.
Yeah.
I'm tired of keeping Guy hanging. Because we also have to move on to what I'm going to be doing to help these people get off of sugar if they want to, because of the challenge that we have to talk about. But 3 Powerful Words. It's an affirmation. I want you to stand in front of the mirror and say it as many times as you can until you believe it. My life changed as a result of it. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. You got that, Guy? You are enough. I am enough. Now,
what does I am enough?
What?
What does it mean? Like, what do you mean I am enough?
Oh, well, you'll have to say it many more times, Guy, before it'll sink in. So you just keep saying I am enough, meaning you're enough in every way. It's a confidence building exercise, but it's an affirmation. And what's interesting is when our subconscious mind really starts to understand I am enough. You have enough food, you have enough alcohol, you have enough toxic relationships, you have enough of anxiety, you have enough of everything, because you are enough. and I know it sounds corny and very Stuart Smalley-ish from Saturday Night Live, but the more you can affirm, it is hypnosis. If you affirm to your mind over and over on a conscious level something, and anything followed by I am is.
And we are taught often in our imprint period that we're not enough. We're not tall enough. We're not pretty enough. We're not handsome enough. We're not skinny enough. We're not smart enough. We're not quick enough. We're not funny enough. Many times we're taught
not skinny enough.
Exactly. So those three words, I am enough, especially if you match an emotion and an image to it, can be a really powerful thing for you to just sit there and feel the power of what that means. Jimmy, before we get to the challenge of what you're going to be doing next week, my 4 words, and what I'm going to do, the book I just wrote, it's still in the editing phase right now. It talks it talks about, Ida is the editor that Jimmy and I use.
She has to read through all.
She does. Jimmy referred me to Ida, so I blame you.
Okay.
But the book that I wrote about my experience of growing up with addiction in my family, alcoholism, heroin addiction in my family. So I wrote it from the perspective of an adult child of an alcoholic, and also through going through a very, very awful breakup of a 10-year relationship, a very painful breakup, and then also the death of my father. And I wrote it to influence other people who, and my life still moved forward. My life still progressed. And I learned 4 things through those traumas and tragedies. And the 4 things are 4 concepts or mindset shifts that are so important to embrace. And the 4 words or 4 concepts or mindset shifts are acceptance, trust, patience, and release, or letting go. Those 4 mindset shifts, when you can embrace them, when you can learn how to adopt them and apply them into your life, it is so freeing. It's so liberating. And a lot of people think, oh, I have motivation problems, or I procrastinate, or I feel scattered, or I feel lost. Those are symptoms. If you embraced acceptance, you embrace trust, you embraced peace, you embrace patience, and you embrace release, then guess what? All that other stuff is going to fall into place. So I also give a lot of client examples in that too. So what I'll do, that book will hopefully be done within the next 2 weeks. What I'm going to do, I'm going to send everybody a free version of the ebook of that. Okay, so you'll all
this is like being on Oprah.
You get an ebook, and you get an ebook, and you get an ebook. So there's a reason why. So that's my stuff. There's a reason as to why I asked Jimmy to come on here tonight. And not only because he's a good friend, not only because we just laugh a lot, and because we have to fly to other states to see one another, even though we live like an hour and 15 minutes away. We never see each other up here.
It's okay. The Cuban food was excellent. It was
very good. Yeah. Where were we? Chicago? We were in Chicago?
We were in Chicago at a wonderful Cuban restaurant.
Yes.
And we never made it to Second City TV.
We made it to other places, but not Second City.
All right, now let's move right along.
So I asked Jimmy to come on here because Jimmy is doing something that not many people do. And Jimmy is offering a free challenge, and it is a no more sugar challenge. And Jimmy, can you explain a little bit about what is going to be included in that challenge and why people may want to join?
So I'm excited, Dan, because as you know, I started with the hypnoketosis program, and then I kind of realized that there was this common thread that people were coming to me to either lose weight or sometimes lose weight for surgery, sometimes lose weight for themselves. They were on various different diets. A lot of them went with my hypnoketosis program, which was basically how to use self-hypnosis to keep your body in ketosis and make the right food choices. I'm still very pro that. However, whether you're doing Weight Watchers, whether you're doing Atkins, whether you do whatever food program, what's the common thread? Stop eating sugar. It's the one common thread. I don't care even if you aren't on a diet. It's the one common thread that gets your A1C down, which is your, your pre-sugar diabetes number that everybody's getting hounded about. Also, by giving up sugar, you end up really having a lot more energy. You end up losing weight in the process if that's what your intention is. Otherwise, if you're a diabetic, your numbers just improve so much better. So, I had released a recording called No More Sugar. I had gotten a great response, seen hundreds of people on Zoom, hundreds of people at my office in Cheshire, Connecticut in person. And finally, I just thought to myself, that's got to be the focus, is to help people with sugar addiction, because not all people that have sugar addiction are heavy. Not all people that have sugar addiction are type 2 diabetics. Not all are skinny. It's a mixture of people. But then when you combine this anxiety component, so many people come back to me and they're like, oh my God, not only am I not eating sugar, but I just seem to be so much more chilled out. So I was struggling for a long time technologically to make what you make happen on a regular basis. You and I were in Orlando raising hell at another dinner table. And I actually ended up meeting a great team of people, Jerry Luna from Luna Associates and his group. And they're the ones that said, let's do this. Let's get it out to as many people as possible. So they and myself and you included came up with the idea of, why don't you give people 5 days during the holidays, 5 days where they could just clean up from sugar, give them some hypnosis, give them some skills to help them, to show them that it's not about willpower. It's about reprogramming the subconscious mind. So that's what we're going to do over the 5-day challenge. It starts December 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And to sign up, it's real simple. You just go to nomoresugarchallenge.com. Dan, if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. Nomoresugarchallenge.com, and you can go ahead and sign up. We have a ton of people that have already signed up, and I didn't realize until Jerry and Raquel and the team met yesterday that the numbers are pouring in of so many people want relief from sugar addiction. So I'm really excited because, Dan, you and I come from a bunch of mentors that say, give them more than they came for.
Right.
And so that, and listen, 15 years of doing this work has benefited me emotionally more than anything else I've ever done in my life. And I'm like Fletch. I've done many, many things. Dan, you know what else came to mind? Do you remember you did hypnosis for me while I was in a tattoo parlor in Brooklyn?
I remember that. Yes.
I got a 6-hour tattoo from this man talking to me on a cell phone, telling me that, oh, you just feel a little tickle on your arms and da 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 da. And I wear this proudly, but you were with me at that moment. So that just came to mind. So
I want to share my screen for a moment just so everybody can see here. This is what the page looks like when you go to the No More Sugar Challenge.
cool.
This is what it looks like. So when
and hats off to the young lady that created this. Her name is Raquel, and she did a phenomenal job. This is why it's taken me so long to be able to share the challenge with people, because I just didn't have this technological ability to get this done like this. So they did a wonderful, wonderful job.
And Jimmy, how much is it to join the challenge?
It's free. It's free. Absolutely free.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a gift. That is a gift. I highly recommend that, even if it's something that you are not sure if you can attend, still go and sign up for it. Still go and sign
absolutely,
up
because then you'll be on the emailing list, and when other things happen, we'll let you know, because I'm in gear. There are so many people that are recovering from sugar addiction with me. I'm just thrilled for them because they're the ones doing the work. but they're realizing that it doesn't have to, it can be automatic. I mean, I walked by the most beautiful cupcakes and cookies tonight, and I thought, God, those look beautiful. And that was it. And you're talking to a guy that I told you I had to divorce little Debbie. And Patty LaBelle's I don't even know what they were, cobblers, Patty LaBelle cobbler at Walmart. They probably had every chemical in them that known to man besides the sugar, and I could eat a cobbler in a night. Like, I could tell myself I'm going to have one piece, but the cobbler will be gone by the end of the night, one piece at a time.
And Jimmy, is this just for things that you eat, or could it also be drinking sugars like soda?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've had grape soda addicts. I've had Coca-Cola addicts. Coca-Cola addicts. And all types of sugary drink addicts. Because listen, we're insidious. We will, sugar's insidious. It'll find a way into you. Or, oh, that grape soda that they sell is really good. And, so.
And before we get into the quantum focus, I think you are all on my list. So you'll see about it's not a challenge, it's an intensive that I'm doing in right after Jimmy's, actually, the week after Jimmy's. And so you'll all get how to get the VIP ticket for that. Mine is not free. But you're getting the book for free. So
you see what happens when you get to the top, nothing's free.
So I know
I did want to mention, though, that
yeah,
for those that love you, there are a few in this group, I think. But you're going to be on the challenge on day 3.
yes, I will be on the
challenge. So on day 3, and the reason why I wanted Dan there is because Dan, I told you, he has 30 years experience ever since he was 5. And I want him to come on and really help the sugar addicts in the group, which should be most of the people, hopefully, learn some neuro-linguistic programming techniques that he's learned over the years and apply them to being able to control the sugar addiction. So Dan, thank you so much, by the way, not only for having me here tonight, but also for being willing to come on my own challenge and help preach the message.
Absolutely. This is a really important question, Jimmy. I know we get this often. What if it's a birthday or a celebration? Can you have a piece of birthday cake?
I leave it up to the person, but I say to them, if you came to me to stop smoking, do you think it's going to be okay to have just one cigarette?
And again, we're not saying you're never going to eat sugar again.
Unless you want to.
Unless you want to.
It could be a choice, right?
There are some people that, they want to do that abstinence from sugar.
Jackie, I'm sure there's a food donation site near you where you can bring those 2 cases of Pepsi to some deserving family.
And also, I want to recognize, Jimmy, some people from your team are here as well. I know Jerry is here, and
yes.
I think I might have saw Raquel pop in too. Suzanne is here from my team. So from Jimmy and I, thank you for our team members who work with us. Thank you.
You guys work so hard. The Jerry Luna from the Luna Agency and Raquel, I can't even tell you how much they've helped me. And you have your own team that helps you constantly. So this isn't built by just us.
And Tom says he keeps getting a warning about going to the page. I would try about the challenge. I would try opening it in another browser or possibly on another device. Can you put the link to the challenge? Yes. I will put the link to the challenge again. Let's see here.
NoMoreSugarChallenge.com.
Yes. Yes, sir. So Jimmy, with that said, if we do get more questions, because this happens sometimes. This happened with Karen Hand when I had her on to do the self-hypnosis workshop. If people do have questions that we didn't answer, is it okay? Would you mind if we take 20 minutes, just you and I, to film a offhand Q&A?
Oh, I wouldn't mind at all.
Perfect. And I can send that to people too. So everybody will get the recording of this And I wanted this to be not just let's talk about what we're doing. I did want people to have a practical strategy, and that's why I had asked Jimmy what he recommends. And Jimmy recommends, as we talked about before, quantum focus. So Jimmy, I'm going to
Now
turn it over to you.
let's jump in so we don't keep everybody too late tonight.
Awesome. Go ahead. I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Just get yourselves comfortable wherever you are. Doesn't matter if you're sitting in a chair, lying on a bed, or even sitting in your car, as long as your car is pulled over to the side. And just become comfortable. Become comfortable with your surroundings and not focusing on anything in particular. And just allow your attention to glide into doing this exercise. No effort put forth. Just allow whatever's supposed to happen. And without thinking about it, now gently bring your attention to being inside your body. Just bring your attention to being on the inside of your body. Fill your mind with a sense of occupying all the space from the bottom of your feet all the way to the top of your head. And become aware. Just find some awareness of every atom and molecule in your body dancing. All these atoms in your body dancing in total harmony. And say to yourself now, silently in your mind, I live with a happy heart. And I take a moment to allow any thoughts, feelings, or images to come to my mind to go along with my happy heart. Maybe I visualize my happy heart. Maybe I just feel light or warmth there. Experience and enjoy a happy heart just for a few moments. Whether your eyes are open, whether your eyes are closed, it's up to you. Just let yourself feel it. Now say to yourself, I live with a playful spirit. And now take a moment and just tap into that playfulness within you. Maybe it's a time when you were playful. Doesn't matter what age you were. Maybe you were an adult. Maybe you were a child. Maybe you were just giggling. Doesn't really matter. Even if you had a tendency towards mischief, you might even feel a sparkle in your eye as you think about it. And just experience that joy of playfulness. Now say to yourself, I live with a peaceful mind. And just allow for just a moment the sense of peace to just descend all over you through all those atoms. Peace. Peace. And just rest in it. Just rest in it the best you can. Just enjoy it. I mean, really enjoy it. Be at peace just for a few moments. You're worthy. You're deserving of that peace. You're worthy and deserving of a happy heart. You're worthy and deserving of a playful spirit. Just inhale deeply now. In the privacy of your own mind, quietly shout on the inside of your own mind, I deserve health, happiness, and no more sugar. I deserve health and happiness and no more sugar. As you breathe, just take a moment to feel complete, like you just gave yourself a gift. And the gift that you gave yourself was remaining in the present moment. And the reason why we call it the present moment is because it's a gift. Congratulate yourself for being kind to you for the last few moments. Bring yourself into the moment once again and focus on what's happening right now. And you're back.
Awesome.
Thank
I
you,
mean, that was
Danny.
powerful. Thank you. That was very powerful.
Yes, and anybody, just to review, just for a moment, I'm going to go over this during the challenge when people come anyways to the challenge, but it's about creating a happy heart, visualizing that, a playful spirit, and a peaceful moment. So it's your heart, it's play, and it's peaceful. And that I'll be going over this again and the No More Sugar Challenge as well.
Awesome. My friends, I love being able to have my friends and colleagues on here, and I just want to say also thank you for all of you who not just show me support, but also show the people that I bring on support as well. It means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to them. Jimmy, will your challenge be recorded?
I'm not quite sure. I think so. Let me see if Jerry. Oh, yes, Jerry Luna marked in there. Yes, you see, this is why I have a team. Yes, so the team says it's going to be recorded, and if the team says it's going to be recorded, then it will be. He's actually in charge of me. I'm not in charge of him. Dan, I wanted to extend a real big thank you to your audience because, you know, they don't realize how protective you are of them. And I say that all kidding aside. You don't just invite anybody on this show. It took me 10 years to get here. I mean, I'm not taking it personal. But nonetheless, but nonetheless, this is his family, and he's very protective of who he has come on, because we do have some colleagues that we're not going to mention any names, but that you would never have on, because you just don't align with what they believe, and what your family, this family of anxiety relief that you've created, only what they need, as far as other colleagues, and I feel honored
Thank
to
you.
have served all of you tonight, and I thank each and every one of you. I hope to see you on the No More Sugar Challenge. Again, it's nomoresugarchallenge.com. December 4th is when it starts, 7 p.m. Yes, it will be recorded according to the chief. And thanks again. My heart. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I'll also make sure to send out that page to all of the people that I have on my list, all 25,000 people. So we'll spread the love for Jimmy, my friends. Also share it with your friends too. If you have friends or family that want to
Absolutely.
join the No Sugar Challenge, make sure you share it with your friends and family too. And as we sign off, as always, be well, do good, be true to who you are, and happy healing.